There are rains that refresh the city, and there are those that try to hide something. That night, New York seemed wary. The streetlights glowed dimly, as if they didn't want to see what was happening. The drops fell slowly, persistently, washing away traces from the asphalt that could have told someone the truth. Emily Rain's phone rang at 2:17 a.m. She was already awake. Journalists rarely sleep peacefully. "Ms. Rain?" The girl's voice on the other end of the line trembled. "My sister has disappeared." Emily sat up in bed. "When?" "Today, but she's disappeared before." And the line went dead. Sometimes an unfinished sentence is more terrifying than any scream. 40 minutes later, Emily stood in front of an old brick building in Brooklyn. The entrance hall smelled of damp concrete and old paint. The ceiling light flickered, creating the impression of someone blinking in the darkness. Apartment 2B was ajar. She stepped inside. At that moment, the door creaked behind her. "Usually they knock first," a calm male voice said. She turned around abruptly. A tall man in a dark cloak stood in the gloom. His face was focused, almost cold, but his eyes hid a hint of weariness. "Detective Michael Harris," he showed his badge. "Emily Rain," she replied. "A journalist who asks awkward questions." "I heard. I hope only good things." A barely perceptible smile crossed his lips, and something about that smile seemed too lively for such a gloomy night. Inside, it looked as if the owner had simply stepped out for a moment. A coffee mug sat on the table. The phone was on the couch. The light was on. "The cameras recorded Maria entering here at 9:43 p.m., Michael said. "After that, nothing." "Nothing?" "No entry, no exit." Emily walked slowly across the room. The air was heavy, not just musty, tense. "Do you feel it?" she asked quietly. "What exactly?" "It's like the room is waiting for us to leave." Michael didn't answer, but he felt it too. On the nightstand in the bedroom, there was a photograph. Maria was standing near an old house against a backdrop of dry trees. On the back, the inscription, "Ashes Remember." "Ashes remember," Emily translated. And at that moment, a faint sound came from the wall, as if someone had whispered her name. She turned around abruptly. Silence. "Old pipes," Michael said. "Of course." But they both knew it was something else. The house stood where the streetlights ended. The trees around it grew crookedly, as if trying to retreat. The windows were dark, too dark. "Teenagers say mirrors don't reflect people inside," Michael said, getting out of the car. "A wonderful place for a walk," Emily chuckled. "It's not a walk." "Of course not." And yet, when their shoulders accidentally touched at the entrance, neither one backed away. The inside smelled of dust and something burning. A guitar lay in the attic, covered in a thin layer of gray ash. "She was playing," Emily said quietly. She touched a string. The sound was pure, too pure for an abandoned house. At that moment, a shadow seemed to flit across the walls. "Did you see that?" she asked. "No." But his voice grew quieter. There was an old table in the basement. On it lay a carved box. Inside was a mirror in a silver frame. Emily picked it up. She was in the reflection. Then Michael. And then only she. "Come closer," she whispered. He came closer. But the mirror didn't change. Michael stood nearby, warm, real. But he wasn't in the glass. And then a third figure appeared in the reflection. Maria. Her lips moved. "He's not what he seems." The glass cracked. The light went out. When Emily came to, she was lying in the rain outside the house. The house looked old, abandoned, as if no one had been inside for decades. "Michael?" Silence. She walked to the car and looked into the window's reflection. Only her. A voice came from behind, calm, close. "I told you, you shouldn't trust mirrors." She turned slowly. Michael stood there, smiling, but there was no glint, no reflection in his eyes. Only deep, endless darkness. eyes without light. The rain hadn't stopped. It was as if he had decided to become a witness. Emily stood opposite Michael, trying to convince herself that everything was just fatigue, stress, a figment of her imagination, that her eyes couldn't be that black, that the light was simply falling at the wrong angle, but the flashlight was shining directly into his face. And there was no reflection. "Say something." "Normal," she said quietly. "You're wet," he replied calmly. "And you're cold." His voice was the same, warm, calm, too calm. "The mirror didn't see you." She took a step back. "Why?" Michael paused, not fearful, not nervous, considered. "Because the mirror doesn't show us who we pretend to be." "And who are you pretending to be?" He took a step forward. "The one who's trying to protect you." Tension hung between them. It's not just fear. Something more dangerous, something that arises when you realize that the person in front of you could be both your salvation and your disaster. "If you're lying," she began, "then you're already in danger." He extended his hand to her. "Let's go. I'll show you something that officially doesn't exist." And for some reason, she believed him. The police archives were in the basement of the old apartment building. There were no windows, just rows of metal cabinets and the smell of dust. Michael walked confidently, too confidently for a man who supposedly operated outside the system. "Have you been doing this for a long time?" Emily asked. "Since my sister disappeared." She stopped. "You said the case was closed." "Officially closed, not for me." He pulled out a folder, then another, then a third. 6 cases, 6 disappearances, the same scenario: a lunar eclipse, music, an abandoned house. "They all heard something," Emily whispered, leafing through the witness statements. "Before they disappeared, a note, a melody." "An unfinished melody," he corrected. The lamp above them flickered, and a reflection flickered in the metal surface of the cabinet behind them. Not theirs. The third, a tall, faceless figure. Emily turned sharply, empty. "Did you see that?" she asked. "Yes." And for the first time, alarm sounded in his voice. They returned to the house during the day. The sunlight should have destroyed the mystique, but it only emphasized it. The house was too quiet. In the attic, the guitar lay just as it had been yesterday. "Try playing," Michael said. "I'm not a musician." "But you hear it." She carefully touched the string. The sound was thin, pure, and at that moment the air grew thicker. The ashes on the floor rose, swirl. It moved as if alive, and from the gray particles a figure slowly formed. Maria. She looked different, not like a ghost, more like a memory, caught between frames. "You have to finish it," she whispered. "Finish what?" Emily asked. Maria looked at Michael. "He knows the beginning." Emily turned around. "You played here?" He was silent. A second. 2. "My sister composed the first part," he said quietly. "I helped her." And? "And we didn't have time to finish." Maria reached for the guitar. The strings began to play themselves. The melody grew louder. And there was something unsettling about her. Warning. In the basement, the mirror no longer looked old. It seemed new, as if it had been replaced. Emily moved closer. Now both were reflected. But behind them was a third figure, tall, faceless, a shadowy outline. "It's him," Michael whispered. "Who?" "The guardian of the passage." "Passage to where?" "To where unfinished stories end." The figure in the mirror drew closer, the glass frosted over. "Don't turn around," he said. But Emily turned anyway. No one. When she looked in the mirror again, the reflection was gone. Only the inscription. "Finish it." "What happens if we finish the song?" she asked. "Someone will come back." "Who?" He looked her straight in the eyes. "He'll leave." They left the house. The wind grew colder. "If the song is a key," Emily said, "then maybe it opens the door. Or closes it." He stopped. He looked at her differently, not like a detective, not like a partner, like a man who knows he could disappear. "If I'm part of this," he began, "don't go on." "You have to be prepared." She stepped closer. "I don't want to be prepared for you to disappear." It sounded too honest. He slowly touched her hand. Warmth, present. And for a second, the world became normal. Without ghosts, no mirrors, just them. And then, in the distance, a note sounded. Not from the house, not from the guitar, from the very air. The city seemed to sigh, and Emily suddenly realized the song was already playing, and someone had begun to finish it without them. Night no longer came gradually, it collapsed. The house breathed heavily, the walls vibrated faintly as if an invisible wave of sound were passing through them. Emily sat on the attic floor, the guitar lying in her lap, Michael opposite. Between them, a silence filled with tension. "It's not just a song," she said. "I know." "It's a mechanism," he nodded. "The transition only works when two voices coincide." "Two?" He looked at her more closely than before. "The one who begins and the one who finishes." The mirror below cracked again, but now the cracks formed a pattern, almost like notes. Emily suddenly felt a strange feeling. Déjà vu, not like a memory, like a return. "Michael." She slowly looked up. "What if I've heard it before?" He turned pale. "Impossible. I've never been in this house, but when I play, my fingers know where to fall." A pause. Too long. "Tell me honestly," she whispered. "Did your sister really compose the first movement?" He closed his eyes, and for the first time, he didn't answer right away. The basement grew colder. The mirror was completely covered in frost, and Maria appeared in it, but now it's clear, real. "You think I'm a victim?" Her voice was calm. "I'm an anchor." Emily stepped closer. "Did you help him?" Maria smiled. "No, I stopped him." Another frame appeared in the reflection. Michael is younger. His fingers tremble over the strings. His eyes, even then, too dark. "He heard a melody in a dream," Maria said, "but it wasn't his. A song." "Whose song is it then?" Maria looked straight at Emily, and for a second pity flickered in her gaze. "Yours." The room seemed to tilt. "That's impossible." "You were always the other half." Emily stepped back. "I never... You started it a long time ago, as a child. You just don't remember." An image flashed in her memory. A music school, a closed auditorium, a mirror on the wall, and the feeling that someone was playing along with her, even though the room was empty. A low hum filled the attic. The faceless figure didn't appear in the mirror. In reality, tall, shadowy, but now not threatening. Watching. "He doesn't take people," Emily whispered. Michael looked at her as if he was just beginning to understand. "He holds back those who haven't finished." The figure bowed its head slightly. "Disappearances," Michael said quietly. "It's not death. It's a pause," she finished. And in that moment she felt it. The music wasn't playing outside. Within her. Every breath a note, every heartbeat a rhythm. "I started it," she whispered, "and you heard. I tried to finish it without you." And opened the passage. The silence grew thick, understanding, unbearable. "If we finish the song together," Michael began, "everyone will return," she nodded. "And the passage will close." "Yes." He didn't finish, she knew the rest. "But?" Michael looked at her as if saying goodbye in advance. "One of us will be the anchor." The ash rose slowly around them. Maria appeared on the stairs. "I held him," she said. "Now someone has to hold you." "Me?" Michael's voice grew hoarse. Maria nodded. "You hear her louder." Emily felt a chill in her chest. "No, it's not a choice," Maria said quietly. "It's a balance." The guardian stepped closer, not as an executioner, as a witness. The attic filled with light, not bright, silver, like before dawn. Emily and Michael sat next to each other, the guitar between them. "If you stay," he began, "I won't let you disappear because of my mistake." He chuckled softly. "It wasn't a mistake." "Then what?" He looked at her, and for the first time, there was no darkness in his eyes, only honesty. "It was a meeting." She closed her eyes. Her fingers touched the strings. He covered her hand with his, and for the first time, the melody sounded right, complete, whole. The house stopped vibrating. The mirror below became transparent. The vanished silhouettes began to appear in the reflection. The passage was opening, but now not chaotically, controlled, and somewhere deep inside, Emily understood. The last note will decide who remains on this side, and who will become an echo. The music rose higher. The guardian froze. Maria closed her eyes, and the world held its breath. The melody no longer sounded like music, it sounded like a decision. The attic was gone, the walls dissolved, they were no longer sitting in the house, but in that white space Emily had seen in the mirror. No floor, no ceiling, only light and sound. The vanished silhouette stood around, transparent, like breath in the cold. They weren't dead, they were unfinished. The guardian stood behind them. He was clearer now, not faceless, just featureless, like a blank slate. "The last note must belong to one," it said, not in a voice, but in a thought. Emily felt the strings vibrating beneath her fingers. "If I finish," she said quietly, "will I stay here?" The answer didn't come from the guardian, from Maria. "You will be the anchor. You will hold the balance. No one else will disappear." She looked at Michael. He already understood. "If I finish," he said, "you will return. You will forget everything. The house will disappear. The transition will close." "And you?" He smiled. "Truly, I've always been part of the transition. It wasn't by chance that I heard her first." The silence became painful. "No," she whispered. "Emily?" He touched her face. His fingers were warm, real. "You shouldn't live between worlds." "Should you?" He shook his head slightly. "I started it without you. I've upset the balance, so I must maintain it." The music grew louder. The silhouettes around me began to thicken. Time was running out. "I won't let you decide for me," she said suddenly. And for the first time, the melody wavered. The guardian bowed his head. "Balance requires one anchor," resounded in the space. "Then let it be the one who hears it fully," Emily said firmly. Michael froze. "You hear it deeper than I do." "Because you are the beginning," she whispered, "and I am the ending." He understood. If she remains, the song will never truly end. It will resound within her forever. She will become part of the transition. If he remains, the song will be complete, forever. "I love you," he said calmly, without pathos, without heartbreak. As a matter of fact. The world shook. She didn't have time to answer. He removed her hand from the strings and played the last note himself. The music stopped, not abruptly, but softly, like a breath finally released. The white space disappeared, the attic, the house, dust, silence. The guitar lay on the floor, alone. Emily sat next to her. Tears flowed, but she didn't feel them. The mirror below stood. It was ordinary. No cracks, no frost, no unnecessary reflections. The phone vibrated. News. "The missing people have been found, alive. Disoriented, but okay." The house began to slowly crumble, as if it had fulfilled its purpose. She stepped outside. Dawn. The light reflected in her eyes. Ordinary, no darkness. Epilogue. Echo, a year has passed. Music school, classroom, mirror on the wall. Emily stands in front of the students. "Today we'll learn to listen to silences," she says softly. One boy raises his hand. "Is it true that silence is also a part of music?" She smiles. "The most important one." Sometimes in the evening she thinks she hears an echo. Not a melody, not a voice, but a presence. Not like a ghost, like warmth. She no longer looks for him in mirrors. She doesn't listen to the emptiness because she knows he hasn't disappeared. He has become the silence between the notes, and without silence, music is impossible.